Hey everybody, ModelMan here. And what do the 1701 gridded saucer, NPC's glow-in-the-dark Darth Vader, the landing struts and other pieces of the Pt10 have in common? Quite a lot, my friends, quite a lot. Let's start with Vader. Knowing that I was coming up to the exterior of the hull on the Pt10 and wondering how I was going to power it and get the lines into the model from the base, the idea I've had going way back is to put copper pads on the bottom of the landing feet and then on the diorama, so you can just rotate the model off center and it'll turn off. Put it back on the pads, it turns on. So, expecting this would be a very fast kit to do, and being a perfect example of how this might work, and it does work. He's not plugged in right now though. This was a perfect learning experience, and I did learn a lot because it's not going to go exactly how I thought it would, but it's pretty close. Very close. Vader also serves as a second test bed for some Alclad metals. I haven't painted with Alclad before, so I'm a little concerned. As these pieces here are in aluminum, I want to paint the copper wire aluminum as well, and Alclad is certainly going to be the best for that. So I will test it on Lord Darth Vader here. There's a lot of masking to do for him, in addition to just the rough masking on all the LED spots there. Basically, I have to mask the cloth for a matte coat, the leather for a gloss coat, and then all the metal pieces for the Alclad metal coats. And then I don't know if he gets completely sealed or how that's going to work, but we'll see how that goes. So I do have a little bit of painting ahead of me on him, but it should go fast once all the masking is done, and I really do need to do these tests, which coincides with the saucer here. Alclad, at least a while ago on their website, had this paint chart where they took the fuselage of a 747 airliner and then did little strips across it of all their colors. Well, you know what a gridded saucer is going to be really good for? I've got a pretty good idea. And I already took a few minutes to map out exactly how this would go, and it turns out that once you move a couple things around here, there's going to be 2 blank rows in between each group of colors. So 101, 2, 3, 5, 6, 17, 19 are all aluminum specifically. 107, 11, 12, 15 go from chromes to, I think, magnesium and 2 steels. 120, 21, 23, 13 are the burnt metals and exhausts. 104, 108, 9, 10, and 18 are the coppers, golds, and I guess that's it. Brass. There's a brass in there too. So masking all this off is going to be really nice. I'm just getting ready to throw primer on this, and then a quick thing of gloss black, just like Vader's shiny helmet there, to make sure that all the metals come through the best that they can. So I do have some painting to go on for the Jupiter apart from those landing struts there. There's the landing feet as well. Not that that's that big a deal, but if we head on over to here, I really need to get these landing wells painted so I can start installing things, and that means pretty much the whole bottom of the hull needs to be painted. So this is going to have a quick sanding just to get real nice and smooth as possible. There's a couple really bad gouges, and may not be gouges, but that's definitely a very distinct scrape. And flipping through the directions, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. These 3 hemispheres in here, there's the pair of them and the third up here, the directions say are lights, and you should paint them white or silver. Haha. Well, when I read they were lights, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to light them up. But then I thought, well, they are exactly flat to the bottom of the surface of this thing, so there's no real room on the top for the rear 2, but the front one will certainly fit. I went ahead and drilled 3 holes, took these guys out. This is the freezer tube landing wall, and I already had to cut this area out because of the freezer tube RGB. So I figured as this landing well was already a little messy, why not make it a little messier? And you know what? It turns out that this is perfect. When I say perfect, what do I mean by perfect? Have a look at those guys right there. Kind of hemispherical, just popping out, doing nothing. Over here, this very same width happens to be just about exactly a 5mm straw hat. And when you put a 5mm straw hat into place like this, and then I bet if it's glued down right there so the rim is flat with the overall ceiling, that's awful darn close. It's definitely too tall to be an exact match, but if you want to shrink it down, you could even glue it so that the base of it is at the bottom here, in which case you pretty much have your perfect level right there. However, there is a big gap around it. I suppose that does make sense for a light, though, to have that. Whether it's accurate or not, I'm not too worried. But the fact is, I'm going to light these little puppies up. This one will be the easiest, of course, because there's not going to be anything on top of it. What are the difficulties? Well, they're not really too bad. This end one, there's not going to be any issue of the legs sticking through the top. These two side ones, the legs are going to have to be bent exactly 90 degrees over, and I may have to dig the slightest little bit of trench on each side of those so the legs can be buried underneath and the floor can get as full of contact as possible. That's it. There is no other issue to this, though. It's really freaking sweet, and it's going to look great. So I'll be going with warm whites for those. Or maybe I should do more of the... I'll have to check what colors I got. Never mind. Check the colors later when we get closer to it. However, to install these guys, what I was getting at is that this has to be painted first, because there's not going to be any way to mask them off once they're in there. Which means this has to be ready for paint, which means, and so on and so forth, and etc., etc. So, top immediate priority is getting this all finished and ready. Doing this paint swatch is also a critical priority. Vader, he's going to help out a lot as well. He's done most of his main task, which is to test out the copper feet. This is really what I need to do to get the Alclads rolling, and Vader at that point is just incidental, because I think for this I'm probably going to be just going with a base aluminum paint over everything. I think that would make the most sense. So I'm going to do a little sanding on this tonight. Hopefully primer it by the morning. Throw some primer on that at the same time. And I got a little bit of work ahead of me. So I'll catch up in a little bit.